Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Simply.
Hi, I'm Ann from Keep It Simple. I'm going to show you this season how to make fast, affordable, and delicious meals, whether you're cooking for one person or for a lot of people. Everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. I've taught kids how to do it, and I've taught grown-ups how to do it. So join us this season for Keep It Simple. What we're making today is the chicken noodles with mashed potatoes, and it is considered probably to me number 2 skill level, meaning there's cooking involved in it, but it's not hard by any means whatsoever, and we'll just get through it.
Chicken noodles. Chicken noodles and some mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes.
Hi, I'm Ann, and this is Keep It Simple. Today we are going to be cooking chicken and noodles with mashed potatoes. You can add frozen vegetables to it to make it a well-rounded meal, or you don't have to. The chicken and noodles is good just by itself and with the mashed potatoes. And we have staples in this. It's mostly staples in this dish. Is the carton of chicken broth, the potatoes, the butter, and the milk. And then you'll have to go to the store if you don't keep it in your pantry. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit more later on too. And get the canned chicken, a bag of noodles, and the cream of mushroom soup. So let's get started. This is just so simple. Everybody can do it. The recipe that we're making today is going to feed 4 to 6 people plus. So if you need to feed 7 people, just add a little more chicken stock. If you want to only make it for 2 people, cut back the noodles and the chicken broth. You know, that's easy enough to do, easy enough to adjust it. If you want to switch it up, it's just that easy to go ahead and change the broth to beef broth, and the chicken, buy a large can of the canned beef, and switch it up that way. Go ahead and turn this on here, and I've got it on pretty high. We're going to add the chicken stock and the can of chicken to the pot, and we want to get it heating up here. And I'm putting the whole thing in there, this whole carton, for this recipe. Like I said, I'm feeding probably 4 to 6 with this recipe, maybe even more, because it usually comes out pretty good. I've got 1 regular sized can of cream of mushroom soup, and all this does is add another depth of flavor. If you don't have it, it's fine. It'll still be really good.
Does it heat up well?
Yes, it heats up really fast. It's just like boiling water, really. But you've got the chicken and everything in there. Now you have to remember, this recipe calls for salt and pepper to taste, but I would wait until the end to add more salt to this recipe, because you've got the canned chicken and the chicken stock already in there. And those naturally have quite a bit of salt in them for preservation purposes for canned food. So we're going to go ahead and let this just heat up and kind of heat through. Now I'm going to be putting a whole bag of noodles in this for the big recipe. So I think I want a little bit more of liquid in there, and just breaking up the canned chicken a little bit in there, chopping it up and getting it mixed in there. And it's on high heat. It's not going to burn. It's got plenty of water substance in there. But I am going to add another 2 to 3 cups of water for this big of a recipe. So, and I'm going to put my pepper in now. Just generously put some black pepper in there. Fresh ground is fine too. And we'll let this sit and bring it up to a boil. We want it to be boiling and everything else. So I've stirred it all up and it's kind of incorporated together. We'll go ahead and put a cover on it and come back when it's boiling. Okay, a little bit I wanted to talk about some of the ingredients that I use on a regular basis is what I consider a staple. And you'll find on the website at KisChxNood1Final. You guys can go there and look at this as many times as you need to. Not only the videos of the cooking show, but also a list of the staples that we're using on a regular basis, and that's things that you need to kind of have on hand every week when you go to the grocery store. Just pick something up. It doesn't have to be bulk amounts or anything like that. It's just what I consider a staple. So like today's recipe, you know, was calling for carton of chicken broth. That's a staple. Potatoes, that's a staple, because they don't go bad that quickly. Butter, milk, those are all staples. And then there's going to be also another one on the website you guys can check out. It's called Ann's Pantry. And that has another list of ingredients that you can try and keep on hand. You don't have to buy all this stuff at once. Just get it as you use it and get a regular size, even if you're just 1 or 2 people, and you'll be able to go back and keep using it. Like if you keep a canned chicken in your pantry, or canned salmon in your pantry, that's a good thing too. And those are things that I'm going to have in my pantry. So you guys need to check out the website and KisChxNood1Final for the pantry items and for the staples. Waited till this came up to a boil, and it's our chicken broth with 1 can of chicken, 1 whole carton of chicken broth, and some pepper in there. And I did put about 2 to 3 cups of water. Also, I added that to there. And so it's up to a boil now. We're going to go ahead and add, I'm putting in an entire bag of noodles because I'm making the big recipe. Like I said, if you want to make it for 1 or 2 people, just put in 2 or 3 handfuls of noodles, in a smaller pot, half of the chicken stock and 2 cups of water, whole can of chicken, and a can of the cream of mushroom soup. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put these in there, and you're going to have to let them cook down. Doesn't matter what brand you use. This recipe is so affordable and easy to make that you can make it on a weeknight, right after work, and it takes 20 minutes probably to cook thing from beginning to end. And I have already cooked up some mashed potatoes. We're going to let that come back up to a boil so those noodles can cook in there. And the noodles are already made with eggs and flour and so on. So it's going to naturally thicken up just a little bit from the starch of the flour in the noodles. So it naturally thickens a little bit as you cook it. So we're going to go ahead and put the lid back on that, bring it back up to a boil, and we're going to stir it occasionally. Earlier I just went ahead and peeled up a couple of the potatoes. I'm making this for 4 to 6 people, so I did the 4 large potatoes. And after after they cook, you want them to cook at least fork tender. Like if you stick a fork in them, it's not going to come out with the fork. And so they're pretty well done. And then you just mash them up. You can mash them up with a hand masher, salt and pepper and butter, and a little bit of chicken stock to make them, creamy and mashed potatoes. And I'm going to use that. You don't have to make the potatoes with the chicken and noodle, but this is a great recipe for just plain chicken and noodle soup as well. If you don't, cold winter nights or days or weekends, when you've got all the kids at home, this is something that is so affordable to make, and it feeds a lot, and every kid likes chicken and noodles. So also on the recipe, we want to make sure you don't let that boil over, because then you're going to have to clean the stove. But we have the staples. I did not include staples in the recipe for the price. This whole pot right here, including the mashed potatoes, okay, only costs $6 to feed up to 6 people, and maybe even more. I don't know. It could probably feed more. But I'm going to keep stirring this so the noodles don't stick. And again, I would still just hold off a little bit because salt is in the noodles as well. We don't want it to be over salty because you've already got the chicken stock, you've already got the canned chicken and the noodles, and they all have salt in them in the process, the preparation process. So back to the recipe, $6 to make this whole thing right here. And I did not include the chicken broth, the potatoes, butter, milk, because those are staples. Check out the staple section on the website at KisChxNood1Final, and you'll see why I don't include those in them, because it's something that you're going to always have on hand. So if you want to take that recipe or that list of staples with you, that's fine. Just print it off the computer, take it with you to the grocery store. Buy 1 or 2 things every week that you go, and before you know it, you'll have your staples set in the house. So, all right, we're going to keep this cooking until the noodles are done. You don't want them just to be soft. They have to be cooked through, because otherwise they're going to taste kind of starchy or floury. And it gives the time for the broth to soak into the noodles as well. But you can see, even just cooking a couple minutes right here, it's thickening up a little bit. And I have it on a high boil. You just want to be careful when you put the lid back on it to bring it back to a boil that it doesn't boil over, because you will have a mess. And so once it's back to a boil, you can take the top off so you can keep stirring it. Once we've cooked the noodles down into the broth and everything else, you can test them with a fork. Just take one out and try it, blow it off, make sure you're not going to burn yourself. But once the noodles are done to your liking, some people like them more al dente, some people like them really done. So these are done to my liking. I'm gonna go ahead and let it keep cooking while we're fixing the plate and everything else. But I want to just say quickly, here is where you would add any change up that you want to do to this recipe other than the beef, changing it to beef and noodles. You can add, you know, vegetables. I'm just gonna put like a couple handful of corn in this one. All you have to do is do it right at the end because it's just gonna warm through. This is just frozen corn. And you can also add some chopped onions if you want. You can even saute some onions in some butter before and add that to the broth as it's cooking. You can do that right at the end too, because again, all it has to do is cook in a little bit. And this is plenty hot. It's gonna, you know, continue cooking even after I turn it off. And you've got a complete balanced meal. And the corn, for no more than you would use for this big pot, it's not, it couldn't be more than $1. If you want to add that to the recipe, you can put peas in there too. Everything, like I said before. All right, we're gonna serve up our dish here. I've already got the mashed potatoes, like I said before, that I cooked up. 1 potato per person, however many people you're feeding, if they're big ones. If they're smaller, on the smaller size, do a couple per person, and you'll have leftovers, okay? I always put that on the bottom. And then you go ahead and you dip this out and just put everything else on top. With the noodles, get some juice in there, big chunks of chicken, and it's going to be extremely hot, so just be careful with that. Dip that over it, just like that. And I buttered up some bread, and there you go. You've got your whole meal in a bowl. Chicken and noodles.
Chicken noodles.
Whoopsie.
Wait a minute.
Uh-oh. Check it.